They say no good deed goes unpunished. That must be why I ended up dragging a half-burned alien girl out of a death pit on a moon nobody cares about, while a fleet of war drones hovered overhead, itching to incinerate us both. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Name's Roman Kale, ex-Marine, freelancer, grave digger for hire on dead planets where secrets rot better than bones. I wasn't supposed to be on Sark's 9. Hell, no one was. The whole colony had been marked red-locked, abandoned after a mining operation turned into a biological catastrophe. But credits talk, and mercenaries listen. That's how I found myself knee-deep in ash with a rifle strapped to my back, digging through the corpse of a planet for what my buyer called a power core. I called it suicide. The air tasted like rusted circuits and burned rubber. The landscape was nothing but craters, crushed metal, and bones stripped clean. The only noise was my boots crunching over glassed earth and the occasional sizzle of static from my helmet. I'd been scanning for almost 3 hours when my tracker pinged, faint but real. At first, I thought it was a decaying drone engine, or maybe another dead scout with a beacon still pulsing. I followed the signal past a slagged drop pod through what used to be a data hub until I hit a wall of heat, unnatural, humming, alive. That's when I saw it. A glowing pit in the ground, shaped like a sunburst, and in the center, movement. Barely. A figure chained to a pike of smoldering ore, skin gleaming like opal dipped in oil. Thin trails of smoke rose off her shoulders. Her eyes were half-lidded and her breathing was so shallow I thought she might already be gone. But then she looked at me. Not at me. Through me. I should have walked away. Instead, I dropped to my knees beside the pit and peeled my gloves off. Heat flared like a furnace trying to kiss my face off. My suit's internal fans screamed, but I didn't stop. I reached down and gripped the edge of the pike. Metal hissed beneath my palms. "You're real," she whispered. Her voice was like crystal shattering underwater. "You got a name?" I asked, jaw clenched as I yanked against the lock holding her. "Or do I just call you Crispy?" "Abigail." That name didn't belong on a battlefield. It belonged in a cathedral, carved into stained glass. I tugged harder. The pike groaned, then snapped. She collapsed into my arms, and for a moment I swore I saw a flash of light arc across the sky, like something had noticed. "Abigail," I muttered, looping her arm over my shoulder. "You're not dying in this barbecue pit today." She didn't answer, but her fingers curled weakly around mine. We barely made it into the shuttle before the first drone spotted us. I slammed the hatch shut and threw the thrusters into overdrive. The engines coughed, spat out a stream of red fire, and lurched us skyward. Behind us, the pit where I found her exploded, molten rock flaring like a dying sun. Abigail lay strapped to the med table, chest rising in slow, uneven waves. Her skin shimmered in the flickering cabin lights, shifting colors I couldn't name, lavender turning to emerald, gold pulsing under black. I ran a scan. The readings made 0 sense. She wasn't human, not even close. But her DNA, if you could call it that, reacted to stimuli like it was learning, evolving, healing faster than my system could track. I glanced at her again. "Who the hell put you there?" Her eyes fluttered open. "My own." "What?" "My people. They made me wrong." That wasn't the answer I expected. "I was born during the harvest cycle," she whispered. "Every child was engineered for a purpose, strength, speed, sight. I was given empathy." I blinked. "They punished you? For feeling?" "No," she said. "For not killing." The war that wiped out her colony hadn't started because of politics or greed. It started because Abigail refused to follow orders. Her unit had been ordered to eliminate a camp of defectors, elders, younglings, pacifists. She refused. Her defiance wasn't seen as noble. It was seen as a virus. They chained her to a pike and left her to burn in a ritual execution designed to sterilize flawed constructs from the gene pool. Your people sound like real charmers, I said, adjusting the auto-drip for her IV. She turned her head. Why did you save me? I paused. Because you looked like hell, and I don't walk past people who are still breathing. You don't even know me. I know enough. You didn't deserve to burn. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. Roman, she said, you'll die for this. We docked at a service station in the belt around Epsilon 3. Neutral zone, no politics, just traders, scavengers, and mercs too tired to care who you were. I booked a cube in the lower quarter. No windows, one door, triple locks, soundproof walls. Not because I thought Abigail was dangerous, but because I knew someone would come looking. I spent the next 2 hours installing jammers, rerouting transponders. Then I saw it. Behind them, hovering in silence, a reclaimer ship. Sleek, dark, its cannons pulsing. Abigail froze. That's the Collector, she said. He's here to erase me. You said they left you to die. Why erase you now? Because I survived. We ran, not because we were cowards, but because she wasn't ready. And neither was I. I dragged us through maintenance shafts, across service ducts, into the underbelly of the station. She limped beside me, one arm clutched to her ribs. Roman, she whispered, they'll never stop. Then we make them. How? I looked down the corridor where darkness coiled like a waiting mouth. We find the one thing they fear. She blinked. What's that? A secret. I never thought I'd be running from death again, not after everything I'd survived in the Rift campaign, but there I was, bolting through rusted tunnels with an alien girl half-lit by bioluminescence and fully marked for extermination. Abigail moved like a shadow beside me, fast but struggling. Her injuries hadn't fully healed, and I could hear the grind of pain behind every breath she took. We'd found temporary safety behind an old ventilation shaft near the station's subcore. The hum of coolant engines drowned out our whispers. I adjusted the makeshift bandage around her side, and she hissed softly, eyes glowing a dim teal. You should have left me, she murmured. That ship, the Collector, won't stop. And I should have died 10 years ago on Kalon 5, I replied. But I didn't. You're not dying either. She looked at me with something I couldn't name. Not quite gratitude, not yet trust. Something more raw, something wounded. You don't understand what I am, Roman. Try me. My empathy module isn't a gift. It's a signal, a pulse. It connects me to every pain within 10 clicks. That's how I felt you before I saw you. That's how I knew you'd help me. I stiffened. You read me? Only what you didn't hide. I turned away and stared at the spinning turbine overhead. Then you know this isn't about saving a stranger. It's about choosing to fight back. She didn't respond. The silence said enough. Suddenly, a low chime rang from the scanner on my wrist. Not a threat warning. A data packet. Unauthorized. Incoming. I tapped it. It wasn't encrypted, just coordinates. And one line of text. I know what she is. I can help. We're compromised, I said. How? Abigail asked. Someone pinged our location. No signature. Could be bait. Or could be hope. Hope usually comes with a price. Soda's running. She was right. Again. I groaned and keyed in the coordinates. 12 levels up. The old medical ring. No one's used that in years. Then it's either the safest or deadliest place on the station. Lucky us. We moved cautiously, weaving through forgotten service ducts and disused grav lifts. Every corridor was dim, lights flickering like dying stars. Halfway up, we passed a shattered observation deck. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the fractured glass. Armor scuffed, jaw bruised, eyes tired. Beside me, Abigail looked like a ghost carved from nebula fire. "How did they make you?" I asked quietly. "Through pain. That's not science. To them, it is." We reached the medical ring. No alarms, no sound, just cold silence and dust. The coordinates led to a sealed chamber marked with outdated medical insignia. I overrode the lock. It hissed open. Inside stood a man, not alien, not augmented, human, late 60s, skin pale, eyes sharp. "Roman Kale," he said, "and the girl must be Abigail." I raised my weapon. "Start talking." "My name's Dr. Helion Moore," he replied. "Exobiologist. I used to work on Project Riven." Abigail froze. "That name, it's where you were designed," Moore said softly, "and where I betrayed everything I believed in." My grip on the pistol tightened. "Why contact us?" "Because she isn't what they say. She's the key to something far bigger than you can imagine." "Explain." Moore gestured to the console behind him. Holograms flickered to life. Genetic trees, neural net simulations, battle analytics. "Project Riven was never about war," he said. "It was about replacement. The goal wasn't soldiers, it was successors." "What kind of successors?" I asked. "Adaptive life, morality embedded through experience." Abigail was the only prototype that survived emotional transfer. "You mean she has a conscience?" "Yes," he nodded. "That's why they burned her. She disobeyed. She forgave. She refused to erase lives for protocol." Abigail's voice was hollow. "And for that, they left me to die." Moore stepped closer. "They'll come again, but we have a chance. Her signal, it's not just a tether, it's a key." "To what?" I asked. "To ending them." He transferred a data drive to my console. "This contains the shutdown sequence for the collectors. Embedded in her neural code is the seed protocol, but she needs access to the relay core. It's on the other side of the station." "Of course it is," I muttered. "And I assume it's guarded?" "Heavily. You'll never make it alone." "Then come with us." Moore looked away. "I can't. My implants are flagged. The moment I leave this sector, they'll track me." I sighed. "Fine. Then we go without you." "Roman," Abigail said quietly, "what if I fail?" "You won't. You don't know that. I know you made it this far. I know you didn't die when they wanted you to. That's enough." We left Moore behind, data drive in hand, and began the ascent to the relay core. Security tightened with every level. Surveillance drones, pressure-activated corridors, biometric locks. "We need a distraction," I said. "Give me 60 seconds," Abigail replied. She walked to the edge of a console node, touched the panel, and closed her eyes. A pulse of light radiated from her chest. The lights dimmed, systems flickered, every screen showed static. Then a message. "I remember everything." Security went haywire. Guards scrambled. We slipped past. We reached the outer corridor of the relay zone. 3 reclaimer sentries blocked the access gate. Abigail inhaled slowly. "Let me." She stepped forward, bare hands glowing. One of the sentries moved. She struck first, fast, clean, her palm against its chest plate. The machine convulsed, then collapsed. The others raised weapons. I fired, twice. Headshots, efficient, quiet. The gate opened. Inside, the core tower loomed, a spiral of glass and wires pulsing with interstellar feed. Abigail approached the central node and placed her hand against it. The system read her immediately. "Accessing neural interface," it said. "Identity? Abigail. Status? Rejected. Override required." She trembled. "Roman, something's wrong." I rushed to the console. "Try again." They blocked me. "Then we crash it manually." I plugged Moore's drive into the core port. The console flashed. "Override accepted. Countdown initiated." "Countdown? For what?" Abigail whispered. "System reset. Structural integrity compromised. Evacuate immediately." That bastard gave us a virus, I yelled. No, Abigail said. He gave us a weapon. The room began to quake. You need to leave, Roman. Not without you. You have to. No. Please. Abigail, listen. If you die here, they win. Again. I didn't save you for this. Her eyes locked with mine. Then save me again. I grabbed her hand, yanked the drive out, and sprinted toward the emergency hatch. The core behind us erupted in sparks. We dove into the lift shaft as flames roared through the relay. When we landed on the subdeck, she was unconscious. I carried her through smoke, past failing lights, down to the bay where my ship still waited. The station shook violently, collapse imminent, engines online. I didn't stop. I strapped her in, hit launch, and pushed us into the void. As we broke orbit, I looked back. The station began folding inward, implosion triggered by the very signal meant to control her. Abigail stirred. We made it, she said. Barely. More. Gone. Probably planned it that way. Where now? Anywhere they won't find us. She closed her eyes. Then let's disappear. But we both knew this wasn't over. They would come again. They always do. But now they'd be hunting ghosts. And one of those ghosts had fire in her veins. I reached over, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and whispered, You're not their weapon anymore, Abigail. Then what am I? Whatever you choose to be. She didn't reply. But the smile she gave me was human. Space has a sound, not in the way textbooks describe. There's no air, no vibrations, no thunder. But when you've lived long enough in the void, you begin to hear the silence. You learn its rhythms. You hear when something is missing, or worse, when something new arrives. We'd been floating off-grid for 2 solar cycles. Abigail was recovering slowly in the lower deck, where we'd rerouted the gravity to match her natural field tolerance. I kept the ship's systems dim, just enough to keep us alive without sending out signals like a flare in the dark. The reclaimers were searching. We'd fried their relay, erased their link to her neural imprint, and fled their trap. That wouldn't stop them. It would only change how they hunted. I sat in the cockpit, one eye on the flickering radar, the other on a dying transmission loop I'd picked up from the scattered frequencies near the edge of the helix drift. A voice kept repeating 2 words, Origin Fragment. I didn't know what it meant, but it felt like bait. Abigail came up behind me, silent as ever. She wore a cloak now, cobbled together from the emergency thermal blankets in the cargo bay. Her skin had stopped shifting colors. It was pale now, almost translucent, and her eyes were rimmed with silver. You haven't slept, she said. Can't. The voice? I nodded. You think it's for you? She asked. I don't think anything anymore. I just react. She sat beside me, her legs pulled under her like a child pretending the floor was lava. It's not a trap, she said. How do you know? Because I've heard that phrase before. In the simulations. The origin fragment was the first breach, the first failure. It was sealed and hidden. Where? The core of Polaris 5. I exhaled. That's 4 systems away, heavily guarded, locked under corporate martial law. And hiding something they fear. I turned to her. You're not ready. Neither are you, she said. But that hasn't stopped you before. Polaris V was once a manufacturing hub. Now it was a vault. Every inch patrolled by Centurion droids, owned by NextForge Industries. Getting in wasn't the problem. Getting out was. We approached under forged credentials, deep cargo hauler with falsified engine trails and outdated registry logs. Atmo clearance came through after a tense 15-minute scan. The orbital ring let us pass, unaware, or pretending not to be, that we weren't who we claimed. We docked in Bay 92, the farthest from the central spine. Less traffic, fewer eyes. As we stepped onto the landing pad, Abigail winced. Too many signals, she muttered. Every system here is linked, every frequency layered. It's watching us. We move fast, I said. In and out. We'd stolen uniforms. Not perfect, but enough. With helmets on, no one asked questions. We marched through the spine, following her internal map. She remembered parts of this place from simulations she wasn't supposed to survive. As we entered the lower ring, a corridor lit with green pulse strips, we hit the first checkpoint. 2 guards, human, armed, but distracted. I nodded to Abigail. She stepped forward, stumbled slightly, and collapsed. The guards rushed forward. I pulled the suppressor from my belt and stunned them both before they could raise alarms. We dragged their bodies into the access closet and took their clearance bands. "You're good at that," I whispered. "They trained me to adapt," she said. "Then let's adapt faster." The deeper we went, the colder the air felt. Not physically. Something else. A pressure. A presence. Like we were being pulled towards something that didn't want to be touched. The vault was buried beneath the cryo core. A labyrinth of frozen code, storage arrays, memory banks so old they had to be physically connected to be read. We bypassed 3 biometric gates, using the stolen bands. The 4th stopped us. "Access denied," the console barked. Abigail pressed her hand against the surface. "Override," she whispered. "Designation, Arc Spine Echo." The system paused, then clicked open. I stared at her. "What did you just say?" "A name I wasn't supposed to remember." "What does it mean?" "That I was never the first." Inside the vault, everything was quiet. No alarms, no lights, just rows of sealed capsules. I counted dozens, each marked with identical ciphers. Abigail walked down the center, her fingers trailing across the glass of each pod. "They weren't like me," she said. "They were experiments. Failed, forgotten, left to rot." I followed her gaze to the far wall. A single console, flickering faintly. We approached. A voice activated. "Designation recognized. Welcome, Echo." Abigail stiffened. "System integrity, 71%. Core fragment is intact." "Download it," I said. "Whatever this is, we need to move." The console opened, revealing a crystalline shard encased in a magnetic field. Abigail reached for it. As her fingers closed around it, the entire vault lit up. Every pod began to hum. One by one, the figures inside opened their eyes, not human, not quite like her, but alive. "You triggered a resurrection," I said. "No," she replied. "A memory." One of the capsules opened. A figure stepped out, taller than either of us, clad in skin that shimmered like molten silver. It spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "Echo has returned. The signal is complete." Abigail stared at it. "Who are you?" "I am what you were meant to become." "I chose not to." "Then you must be deleted." The vault locked. Doors slammed shut. Gas vents opened. Emergency protocols activated. The other figures began to rise. I fired a warning shot. It ricocheted uselessly. "Nothing penetrates their skin," Abigail said. "Then we improvise." She threw the shard to me. "Get it out of here." "What about you?" "I'll hold them." "You'll die." "Then let them remember me for that." I hesitated, but only for a breath. Then I ran. Through the collapsing hallways, past the locked checkpoints, into the core corridor. The station began to quake. Lights flickered. Sirens screamed. Behind me, I heard the sound of metal tearing and voices crying names I didn't recognize. I made it to the dock, tossed the shard into the containment vault on our ship, and turned back. Abigail was limping toward me, smoke rising from her shoulders, eyes blazing. "They're not dead," she gasped. "They're linked to me. My code. I woke them." "Then we need to run." "No," she said. "We need to cut the signal." "Where's the source?" "Inside me." She pulled a small blade from her belt, one I hadn't seen before. I need you to sever the bond. I'm not cutting you. If you don't, they'll follow us forever. I hesitated. She stepped closer. Roman, do it. My hands trembled as I took the blade. I pressed it to the nape of her neck where a faint glow pulsed. One slice, a crackle, a flash. Her body convulsed, then stilled. The light vanished. Her knees buckled. I caught her. Is it done? I asked. She nodded. They're gone. Good, I said, because I wasn't ready to lose you. She smiled faintly. You almost did. We lifted off as the vault exploded behind us. Whatever those things were, whatever they remembered, they wouldn't be chasing us anymore, for now. But deep down, I knew the truth. Some things, once awakened, don't sleep again. Abigail lay in the medbay, unconscious. The shard pulsed softly inside its containment. I watched her chest rise and fall and wondered what kind of future we were hurtling toward, one built on broken codes and shattered pasts. And I whispered to the dark, whatever comes next, I'm not letting you burn again. The universe doesn't breathe, but tonight it felt like it exhaled. Cold starlight stretched across the cockpit window, and the systems hummed under my hands, silent except for the occasional flicker of diagnostics. We drifted through Sector Black, beyond charted space, the kind of place maps left blank because nothing lived long enough to name it. Abigail lay motionless in the back chamber, her body wrapped in synthetic insulation and nano-weave gauze. Her skin had stopped glowing. No shimmer, no heat pulses, just silence. She hadn't spoken since we left Polaris V. Whatever I severed in that vault had done more than cut the signal. It had taken a part of her. I monitored her vitals every hour. Her brain activity fluctuated wildly, like a storm trying to settle over shattered waters. I tried speaking to her, telling old war stories, mumbling jokes, even whispering songs I barely remembered from Earth. But nothing stirred. Not a blink. Not a breath beyond survival. The shard she'd retrieved from the vault sat locked in a magnetic containment unit beneath the console. Every few hours, it pulsed with dim blue light, a rhythm that almost mimicked her heartbeat. I didn't know if it was reacting to her or she to it. I only knew one thing. It wasn't done. I stared at the star map projected across the navigation glass. We had no destination. Nowhere safe. No coordinates that didn't spell death if someone found us. I had destroyed too many relay nodes and rerouted too many IDs. The ship didn't even know its own name anymore. I drifted toward the rear, past the cargo coils and storage modules, and stepped into the medbay. Abigail's face was still and beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Not because she was perfect, she wasn't. She was raw, unfolded, open. Even unconscious, she seemed to feel everything. I reached out and gently touched her hand, cold, but not lifeless. Her fingers twitched. I held my breath. A second twitch. Then her eyelids fluttered open, slow and uncertain, like a light returning after years of shadow. Roman, she whispered. Yeah, I said, stepping closer. I'm here. What is this place? Sector Black. Off map. Dead zone. I figured if you were going to reboot your soul, you might want quiet. She blinked, then sat up slowly. You severed the thread. You told me to. I wasn't sure it would work. It did. You dropped like a star into a black hole. I've been waiting 2 days for your eyes to open. She looked around, as if sensing the ship's systems through the air. The shard, where is it? Secure, still pulsing, still a mystery. She stood, shakily, leaning against the wall. Roman, the data inside that fragment, it's not just memories. What is it? It's a map. To where? Not where. Who? I stared at her. You mean someone else like you? No, she said. The architect. The one who created the first version of what I am. Alive? Possibly. And you want to find them? I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not this time. She moved to the containment panel, keyed in the sequence, and let the shard float above her palm. It spun, flickered, and then projected. A face appeared. Not a human face. Not alien either. It was more of an impression, light sculpted into something the mind could almost grasp, but never truly see. A voice accompanied it, not spoken aloud, but imprinted directly into our thoughts. If you are seeing this, then she survived. If she survived, then I failed. If I failed, then the end has already begun. The voice paused. The construct known as Abigail carries the key. Inside her memory cells lie the coordinates to the fold. You must reach it before they do. The image vanished. Abigail closed her fist around the shard. They're going after the fold. What is it? A fracture in the weave of time, a place where every version of reality leaks through. If they gain access, they can erase anything they don't like, including me. I sat down, hard. And let me guess, they know we have the shard. They knew before we left the vault. Then what are we waiting for? A ship that can reach the edge without tearing itself apart. You have one. This ship isn't shielded for fold traversal. Then we steal one. She looked at me, something like fear in her eyes. You're serious? I'm not watching you die again, Abigail. You might if we go there. Then we go anyway. She smiled faintly. I hate how stubborn you are. And I love how you pretend that's not why you trust me. We docked at a forgotten outpost orbiting a dying dwarf star. The place was cracked, half-lit, barely functional. But inside its hollowed docks was a vessel unlike any I'd seen, built for endurance, equipped with temporal shielding, and blacklisted across every known faction, a prototype called Solstice. Where did this come from? I asked the trader. He grinned, toothless. It found me. How much? Too much. You take gold. You have gold. No. Then why ask? The universe doesn't breathe, but tonight it felt like it exhaled. Cold starlight stretched across the cockpit window, and the systems hummed under my hands, silent except for the occasional flicker of diagnostics. We drifted through Sector Black, beyond charted space, the kind of place maps left blank because nothing lived long enough to name it. Abigail lay motionless in the back chamber, her body wrapped in synthetic insulation and nano-weave gauze. Her skin had stopped glowing. No shimmer, no heat pulses, just silence. She hadn't spoken since we left Polaris V. Whatever I severed in that vault had done more than cut the signal. It had taken a part of her. I monitored her vitals every hour. Her brain activity fluctuated wildly, like a storm trying to settle over shattered waters. I tried speaking to her, telling old war stories, mumbling jokes, even whispering songs I barely remembered from Earth. But nothing stirred. Not a blink. Not a breath beyond survival. The shard she'd retrieved from the vault sat locked in a magnetic containment unit beneath the console. Every few hours, it pulsed with dim blue light, a rhythm that almost mimicked her heartbeat. I didn't know if it was reacting to her or she to it. I only knew one thing. It wasn't done. I stared at the star map projected across the navigation glass. We had no destination. Nowhere safe. No coordinates that didn't spell death if someone found us. I had destroyed too many relay nodes and rerouted too many IDs. The ship didn't even know its own name anymore. I drifted toward the rear, past the cargo coils and storage modules, and stepped into the med bay. Abigail's face was still and beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Not because she was perfect, she wasn't. She was raw, unfolded, open. Even unconscious, she seemed to feel everything. I reached out and gently touched her hand, cold, but not lifeless. Her fingers twitched. I held my breath. A second twitch. Then her eyelids fluttered open, slow and uncertain, like a light returning after years of shadow. Roman, she whispered. Yeah, I said, stepping closer. I'm here. What is this place? Sector Black. Off map. Dead zone. I figured if you were going to reboot your soul, you might want quiet. She blinked, then sat up slowly. You severed the thread. You told me to. I wasn't sure it would work. It did. You dropped like a star into a black hole. I've been waiting 2 days for your eyes to open. She looked around, as if sensing the ship's systems through the air. The shard, where is it? Secure, still pulsing, still a mystery. She stood, shakily, leaning against the wall. Roman, the data inside that fragment, it's not just memories. What is it? It's a map. To where? Not where. Who? I stared at her. You mean someone else like you? No, she said. The architect. The one who created the first version of what I am. Alive? Possibly. And you want to find them? I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not this time. She moved to the containment panel, keyed in the sequence, and let the shard float above her palm. It spun, flickered, and then projected. A face appeared. Not a human face. Not alien either. It was more of an impression, light sculpted into something the mind could almost grasp, but never truly see. A voice accompanied it, not spoken aloud, but imprinted directly into our thoughts. If you are seeing this, then she survived. If she survived, then I failed. If I failed, then the end has already begun. The voice paused. The construct known as Abigail carries the key. Inside her memory cells lie the coordinates to the fold. You must reach it before they do. The image vanished. Abigail closed her fist around the shard. They're going after the fold. What is it? A fracture in the weave of time, a place where every version of reality leaks through. If they gain access, they can erase anything they don't like, including me. I sat down, hard. And let me guess, they know we have the shard. They knew before we left the vault. Then what are we waiting for? A ship that can reach the edge without tearing itself apart. You have one. Number, this ship isn't shielded for fold traversal. Then we steal one. She looked at me, something like fear in her eyes. You're serious. I'm not watching you die again, Abigail. You might if we go there. Then we go anyway. She smiled faintly. I hate how stubborn you are. And I love how you pretend that's not why you trust me. We docked at a forgotten outpost orbiting a dying dwarf star. The place was cracked, half-lit, barely functional. But inside its hollowed docks was a vessel unlike any I'd seen, built for endurance, equipped with temporal shielding, and blacklisted across every known faction, a prototype called Solstice. Where did this come from? I asked the trader. He grinned, toothless. It found me. How much? Too much. You take gold. You have gold. No. Then why ask? The ones who never wanted her to remember. The image vanished. Abigail turned to me. We have to find the crucible. Lead the way. We descended into the cracked remains of the sanctum, through layers of dust and broken memory. The crucible wasn't a machine. It was a chamber, circular, vast, lined with crystalline conduits that hummed as Abigail stepped inside. They stored thought here, she said. Not data, not code, pure thought. She touched the central pillar. The air shifted. Visions filled the chamber, hundreds of voices overlapping, stories layered upon one another. Fear, hope, rebellion. They wanted us to be weapons, Abigail said. But they failed. We felt too much. That's why they hunted you? That's why they still will. The floor lit beneath her. The voices stilled. One phrase echoed clearly through the air. Primary imprint detected. Would you like to initiate restoration? Abigail looked at me. Roman, it's your call. She nodded. Yes, begin. Light engulfed her. I stepped back as the chamber thrummed. Her body floated above the ground, eyes closed, arms extended. The pillar split open, revealing a pulse core. It extended toward her, connecting with her chest. She gasped. The voices roared, then silence. She collapsed. I caught her. Her breathing was shallow. I carried her out of the chamber. As we reached the surface, a shadow dropped from the sky. A craft, sleek, silent, deadly. It opened. A figure stepped out, tall, masked, cloaked in static. "Give her to me," it said. "Not a chance. She holds the archive. She earned it. She belongs to us. She belongs to herself." The figure raised a hand. I raised my rifle. "Don't. She's dangerous," it said. "She's alive. Then she's a threat. Then so am I." It moved. Fast. I fired. Missed. It struck. My ribs cracked. I fell. Abigail stood, glowing. Her skin shimmered with golden fire. "Touch him again," she said, "and I will unmake you." The figure paused. "You accessed the crucible." I remembered. "Then you must be deleted." "Try." It lunged. She caught it mid-air. Light flared. The figure screamed. Then silence. The cloak fell empty. Abigail swayed. I caught her again. "You're full of surprises," I muttered. She smiled. "We're not done yet." We left the origin field behind, but not forgotten. In her eyes burned a clarity I hadn't seen before. Purpose. She knew who she was now. Not a weapon. Not a mistake. But a voice they couldn't silence. And I knew then whatever came next, I'd follow her through every storm the universe dared throw our way. I never believed in fate. Not really. Life in space doesn't leave much room for mysticism. You plan, you execute, you adapt. But since Abigail came crashing into my life, smoldering, hunted, half dead, and still stronger than anyone I'd ever met, I'd stopped believing in coincidence. There was a pattern to everything we touched, like we were following a code we hadn't written, but somehow still recognized. The crucible changed her. I could see it in the way she moved, how her eyes held more than memory now. They carried design, not imposed but chosen. For the first time since I'd known her, Abigail wasn't just surviving. She was leading. After we left the sanctum, we drifted toward the unclaimed territories of the Selene Verge, a stretch of collapsed star systems known more for rumors than maps. No governance, no laws, no signals. Perfect for disappearing. But we weren't hiding. Abigail said the Verge held something ancient, something even the creators of her line feared, the Bastion Gate. A myth, according to most. A place where the first neural splicers buried their mistakes and sealed them behind time-locked encryption fields. According to Abigail, it wasn't just a prison. It was a mirror. Everything that came before us, she said, was tested there, failed, and locked away. "Why go there?" I asked. "Because that's where they'll send the final override. If they can't control me, they'll try to erase me from the template. And if we get there first, we delete the template first." We flew silent. No beacons, no logs. Every system on board was stripped to manual. It was just her, me, and the hum of a destiny we hadn't chosen, but were done running from. The Bastion Gate wasn't marked on any chart. It revealed itself when Abigail interfaced with the relic stored beneath her ribs, what remained of Morel's echo. It wasn't speech. It was direction. Emotion translated into coordinates, like being pulled by a memory so strong it rewrote gravity. The gate hovered inside a dead star's heart, massive, black, shaped like a spire broken in half and frozen mid-collapse. It didn't open. It unfolded, like it had been waiting for her all along. "What if we can't stop it?" I asked. Abigail didn't answer. She just walked through the breach. Inside, the gate was worse than any battlefield I'd seen, not because of damage, but because of design. It was sterile, perfect, symmetry so flawless it felt wrong. The kind of perfection only machines build when they forget what warmth is. We moved through empty corridors lined with locked stasis pods. Inside each one, a version of Abigail. Not her, not quite. Different eyes, different wounds, some asleep, others screaming behind glass. These were failed iterations, she whispered. They built hundreds before me, modified emotions, adjusted loyalty, tweaked obedience. Why keep them? For calibration. If I rebelled, they'd study which version stayed silent longest and replicate that. They were going to erase you with your own copies? Yes. We reached the chamber's core. A circular dais hovered above a memory pool, liquid code flowing like silver mist, and in the center, a terminal, ancient, alive. Abigail approached, fingers trembling. This is it. What do you need? To merge the archive. If I do it fast enough, I can overwrite the neural pathing. I'll become the source. They'll lose the ability to replicate me. And if you don't do it fast enough? I dissolve. My code gets absorbed, and I disappear into their model forever. There's no backup plan? You're the backup plan, Roman. If I fail, you burn this place down. That's not a plan I like. That's because you love me. The words stopped me. I wanted to deny them, wanted to keep control. But she wasn't wrong. I did love her, for all the reasons that made no sense, for all the times she chose mercy instead of fire, for surviving what should have killed her, for laughing even when the universe tried to silence her, for choosing me when she could have chosen anger. She stepped into the light. The platform rose. Her body split, data trails swirling into the stream, her form becoming part of the terminal, alive and not. Beginning overwrite, she said. Her voice echoed from everywhere. Alarms flared. Something inside the gate fought back. Walls shivered. Pods opened. Not the dormant copies. Something else. Something older. Drones. Weaponized. Defensive systems meant to eliminate breaches. Roman, she said. They're coming. I see them. I drew my weapon and stood between the stairway and the light where she hovered. The drones rushed forward, sleek, fast, silent. I fired. Bolts sliced through the first two. The others adapted, changed flight patterns. I threw charges down the corridor. Metal screamed. I held the line. Behind me, her voice trembled. Progress at 72%. Make it faster. Trying. A drone grazed my arm. I spun, sliced it with my blade. Another fired a sonic pulse. I hit the floor, ears ringing. Smoke filled the corridor. 88%, she called out. Roman! I looked up. One of the pods had cracked. A version of Abigail stepped out, perfectly still, eyes blank. Not her, just a shell. It moved toward the terminal. It's trying to override me, Abigail said. You have to stop it. How? You know how. I charged the pod. The copy turned. It didn't fight. Just watched me, like it knew. I stabbed the core in its chest. Sparks erupted. The room shook. 95%, she gasped. One more minute. A drone clipped my leg. I fell. Blood spilled. Couldn't hear. Couldn't see. Just the light around her, growing, pulsing, burning. Then silence. Complete. She floated back down, whole, changed. Her skin shimmered with symbols I couldn't read. Her eyes glowed violet. Did it work? I asked. She nodded. They can't copy me anymore. So what now? Now. I free the others. You can't save them all. No, she said, but I can wake them. Let them choose. She moved to the pods. One by one, she touched them. The copies flickered, blinked, stepped out. Not drones, not copies. People, confused, afraid, but awake. Come with us, she said. Most nodded, some stayed. That was their choice. We left the gate behind. As it closed, I felt something shift. The universe tilted, a course corrected. How do you feel? I asked her once we were back on the ship. Like I finally ended the story they wrote for me. What's next? She smiled. Now I write my own. The stars were quieter now. Not because the universe had changed, but because I had. After everything we'd been through, smoke, fire, betrayal, war machines, fractured identities, I'd stopped expecting peace. Yet here it was, fragile and strange, like the stillness after a storm that forgot to take us with it. Abigail stood at the edge of the viewport, her silhouette framed by distant galaxies, spinning without concern for who we were or what we'd done. Her back was straight, her breathing slow, but I could see the weight she carried in the way her fingers twitched as they rested against the cold metal. She was more than herself now. She carried voices that had once been imprisoned, choices once forbidden, and names erased from every archive. The bastion gate was sealed behind us. Not destroyed, just dormant. A sleeping god in a coffin made of failed ambitions. We hadn't just escaped it. We'd rewritten the code that had built it. But peace is never final. It's just a pause before something new dares to test its boundaries. I stepped beside her, still limping slightly from the wound on my leg that hadn't quite closed. "You've been quiet," I said. She didn't look at me. "They're dreaming." "Who?" "The ones we woke. The others. They're not used to freedom. It stings." "I get that. I didn't expect them to stay silent. Maybe they're waiting." "For what?" "For you to lead them." She turned finally, her eyes glowing faintly, no longer violet but deep amber, like a forge that still held heat even when the flames had settled. "I'm not their queen," she said. "I never wanted that." "You don't have to be. Just be their first light, the one who proves it's possible." "I don't know if I'm ready for that." "No one ever is. But they'll follow someone who bled for them, someone who chose to fight instead of break." "You're romanticizing me. I'm just watching you be what they never expected." She stepped forward and pressed her forehead to mine. "I was supposed to be forgotten." "You were impossible to forget." Our moment broke with the chime of the console, an incoming transmission, no encryption, just a wide-band echo pinging across 1,000 dead satellites. It was a voice, broken, mechanical, but desperate. "To any sentient craft within range, this is Outpost Vega 1 requesting assistance. System collapse is imminent. We are under siege. Civilian lives at risk. Please, if anyone can hear this..." Abigail glanced at me. "We should ignore it." "You know we won't. We don't even know who they are. They're people asking for help. It could be a trap. Then let's spring it before it catches someone else. You haven't changed. Neither have you." Coordinates blinked on the screen. A desolate moon surrounded by debris, the remains of orbital stations torn to ribbons by impacts or something worse. I brought the engines online. Abigail watched the stars shift. "If this is the end," she said, "I'm glad it's with you." "It's never the end. Just the next chapter no one wrote down yet." We dropped into Vega 1's orbit. Smoke coiled into space. The settlement below was partially intact, but power flickered. Scans showed biosigns, faint, scattered, pulsing like dying embers. We docked, walked through a corridor lit by flickering emergency lights. Dust hung in the air like ghost breath. The first person we saw was a child, alone, eyes wide, not afraid, just watching. "You're not soldiers," she said. "No. You don't wear their marks." "Whose marks?" "The Sky Men, the ones who erased the elders. They said they were purging errors." Abigail's face tightened. "We've seen their kind before. They said we weren't pure, that we remembered too much." The child took my hand and led us through winding halls until we reached a broken chamber. Dozens of survivors, old, young, none armed, waited, hope etched into skin like scars. "Who's in charge?" I asked. An elder stepped forward. "We used to be a memory-keeping station," he said. "People came here to preserve moments the universe was trying to forget. Then they came. Said memory was dangerous. Said forgetting was safety." "What do they want now?" Abigail asked. Total erasure. Of us. Of our stories. Of everything we knew before the Code Wars. They're afraid, she said. Of memory? Of truth. She stepped forward. We'll help you. With what? With remembering louder than they can erase. We spent hours rebuilding the comm grid. Abigail interfaced with their broken servers, injecting fragments of the archive she'd inherited. The people watched her not like a savior, but like a storm they'd once feared now standing between them and another disaster. I patched their defense shields manually. It wasn't much. It wouldn't stop a fleet. But it could buy time. That night, while the stars watched silently from above, a single ship descended, black, fast, shaped like a blade. I recognized it instantly. That's a Wiper-class vessel, I said, designed for memory deletion through neural disruption. Then we cut its mind before it cuts ours, Abigail replied. We stood on the platform as the ship landed. One figure stepped out, faceless, voice modulated, hands open. Return the anomaly, it said, and the cycle ends. Abigail stepped forward. I'm not yours. You are an unfinished project. I'm the result of every failed attempt to erase choice. Your defiance will doom them. Then I choose defiance. The figure raised a hand. I raised my weapon. Abigail raised her voice. Let them see. The archive poured from her like starlight. Every memory, every name, every erased face reappeared in the air above us. A storm of truth. The people stood, surrounded by their own history, no longer alone. The Wiper hesitated, flickered, then disintegrated, overloaded by what it was meant to suppress. The ship behind it powered down. Abigail collapsed. I caught her. She smiled. That felt good. You're reckless. I learned from the best. You almost died, but I didn't. Next time, let me go first. Next time we go together. We stayed for 3 more rotations, helped them establish signal walls, installed echo loop backups of their archives, taught them to defend themselves with memory instead of fire. When we left, the elder pressed a symbol into Abigail's hand, a circle made of broken stars. You've returned what we forgot, he said. We won't forget again. We returned to the stars. No destination, just movement, just purpose. I looked at her one night, floating weightless in the cockpit as she watched the universe spin. You ever think about what might have happened if I hadn't found you? I asked. I do, she said. And? Then I remember that I did find you, and that's the only version of the story I care about. I nodded. That was enough. Somewhere out there, systems still hunted anomalies. Somewhere, factions still feared memory. But here, in this ship, between 2 survivors who refused to be erased, something stronger existed. Not code, not weapons, just choice. I set a course toward the edge of known space. Abigail floated beside me. Where to? She asked. I smiled. Wherever no one tells us who to be. That's everywhere and nowhere. Exactly. We accelerated, starlight bent, and together we vanished into the next unwritten page of history.